All right, guys, so in this video, I thought it would be fun for us to do something a bit more crafty. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to make our own book. So we've been reading lots of books. Maybe you've been listening to me read, or maybe you've been reading your own books. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to use our summarizing skill that we've been recounting or retelling stories with. And instead of retelling a story, we're going to tell our own story using the framework of somebody wanted, but so then. All right, so what you're going to need for this, 3 sheets of paper, okay, a stapler with staples in it. I had to go refill mine. And either pens or pencils or crayons or markers, really just whatever writing utensil you have, something to draw some pictures and to write some words. All right, so if you want to pause this, you can go get those materials, or we can just go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our 3 sheets of paper and we're going to stack them so that all the sides are nice and even. And then I'm going to have them so that you see the long side of the rectangle at the top and at the bottom. And we're going to keep all of those pages in a nice neat stack with the corners lined up. And I'm going to make the short sides of my rectangle touch. Some people will call this, I believe, hamburger style, folding it hamburger style. All right, so it looks like this. And I'm going to pull down my fingers, pinch, pinch, pinch. And I'm going to pinch all the way across. It's okay if it's not perfect. We are not looking for perfect. We're just looking to do our best, to have some fun, to do a little bit of learning and exercising our brains. All right, so now that I have a good clean crease, you have to pinch it all the way across to get that good clean crease. What you should have now is something that looks kind of like a book. So if you look at the front, you can sort of turn the pages. But it's not going to stay like that if we don't attach it, which is why I'm going to use my stapler for this next part. So what you're going to do here is you have your papers folded in half. If you'll notice, it sort of opens out. Okay, you don't want to staple the open sides together. If you staple the open sides together, you're not going to have a book. You're just going to have like a packet of papers that you can't open. So where you pinched your crease is where we're going to want our staples to go. Again, you just want to make sure that everything is neat on the sides, as neat as you can make it. And then you're going to take the stapler, and you don't want to go all the way in, because if you go all the way in, then your book isn't going to have very much room for your words. You want to be close to the edge as possible. All right, I'm going to do a little staple. There's one. I'm going to do one in the middle, and I'm going to do one again at the end. So now I have 3 staples. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. All right, now when you first open it, it's not going to stay open very well. All right, so you're going to have to open it and be careful. Be careful. You want to open it as much as you can to fold open the sides. All right, and then you can flip through the empty pages of your book. And what's really exciting about this is these pages are empty, so you get to fill it with whatever you want to fill it. I used to do this a lot whenever I was younger. When I was younger, I wanted to grow up to be an author and illustrator of children's books. That was what I wanted to grow up to be. So I guess in a sense, that's what I'm doing whenever I make books, and stories with my kiddos, with my students. And so there you have the basics of your book. All right, so now I've already made one, and so I'm just going to walk you through how to use this to create a story. All right, there are different ways to create a story. But what you have to do first is you have to think, what are the different elements of a story? What are the story elements? We have characters. That's the who of the story. That's our somebody, the main character, all right? You also have things like a setting. A setting is when it took place, where it took place, right? The things around them, the things that are happening, all right? Then you have the plot. Plot. When we talk about somebody wanted but so then, for the most part, this is talking about the plot. What did they want? How did they try to get it? What was the problem and what was the solution? That's all part of the plot. All right. And so what you might do in your writing journal or on a different loose leaf sheet of paper or on a sticky note or with a neighbor that's next to you, you might brainstorm. Who will my main character be? The most important character that I'm going to write about. And then you might write a note about it. So I'm going to write that my main character is going to be a rabbit. So I'm going to write down that my main character is a rabbit. Okay. And then I'm going to think, what do I want to name my main character? And I already decided, but you might need a moment to think. I named my main character Jack, Jack the Rabbit. And I thought that because of a jackrabbit. And I just thought that sounded like fun to write about a jackrabbit named Jack. Then I'm going to think the setting. Where is this going to be? When is this going to be? Is this going to be at nighttime when they're going to bed? Is this going to be in the morning while they're eating breakfast? All right. Is this going to be at the park? Is this going to be in the classroom? Is this going to be in the lunchroom? And I'll go ahead and tell you that I decided that I wanted my story to happen maybe in the early afternoon, and it's going to be outside, maybe in someone's backyard. Really, I wasn't super specific in my story, but I'm going to go ahead and have that in my head that as I'm creating this story, this is when and where I want it to happen. And then you can take a moment to record that in whatever piece of paper, extra paper you have to the side. So the other thing that I want to think about, besides who my story is about and when and where my story occurs, I want to think, what is the problem that my character is going to face? What is the biggest problem that they're going to face? I'm going to think, what problem could they face? Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that the problem my character is going to face is that my character wants or wanted to play hide and seek with his new friend, but his biggest problem was that he could not find his friend. All right. So my somebody is Jack the Rabbit. Jack wanted to play hide and seek with his friend, but his biggest problem in my story is that he couldn't find his friend no matter how hard he tried. So is my solution. What the character did or what happened to solve the problem. All right, so what happens in my story to solve the problem is that Jack looks and looks and looks and can't find his friend. So finally, his friend jumps out and sort of scares him. And then at the very end, what resulted after the solution? So in my story, after the solution, they laugh and they have a good time together. And they're just so happy that they're friends. So I'm going to just do a quick walkthrough of what you can do as you create your own story, your own book. So before you actually want to create the front page, I did mine after I wrote my story, because sometimes your story changes as you write it. That's what good writers do. They change and make it better as they go. So a lot of times they actually don't write the title until the very end. And that's what I did. I waited until the very end to do the title page. So I opened it up and I started with somebody, the most important who of the story, the main character. Here was my story. Jack, that's my who. Jack the rabbit was the best at hide and seek. He was always so good because he had the biggest ears of all his friends. So what I did is I told my somebody who the story is about. And I said a little bit more information for my readers to know about my character. I gave them a detail and then I gave them more information, because your readers, they don't know the information unless you give it to them. So after you write your sentence about who the story is about, maybe give more information. This is another great place, this first page, to give your readers information about the setting, so they can go ahead and picture in their head when and where is this story taking place. What you see after I've written about my somebody, I drew a picture of Jack so that my readers could not only visualize it in their heads using the words I've given them, but they can use the information from my pictures to help them better understand my story as well. All right, my next page is what the main character wanted. Somebody wanted. The main thing that this character desired. All right, here it goes. Jack was super excited to play with his friends today. They had a new friend, Stickbug, and Jack wanted to show her just how good he was. So what my character wanted was to play hide and seek with his friends to show their new friend how good he was. If you notice, I gave more information. I didn't just say he wanted to play hide and seek. I gave you more information so that as a reader, you can enjoy and better understand what I have to say about my story. And then I drew a picture to add to, not just for fun, but also to add to my readers' information. They can also draw information from the pictures. For instance, if my readers didn't know what a stick bug was, they couldn't picture that in their heads. But if I describe it with my words, or if I draw a picture of it, that helps my readers to better understand. So I have somebody wanted. My next piece is but, the biggest problem encountered by the main character. Unfortunately, when they played their game, Jack couldn't find Stickbug anywhere. Usually his ears helped him out, but their new friend was too well camouflaged. I don't know if you can tell, but I actually misspelled some words, and I did it in marker, so I couldn't erase it. So if you're doing it in marker, just know that you're not going to be able to erase it. But just like anytime we write anything, the first time we write it, it's not the best that we can make it. So what you might do is you might go back and edit or change some of the things you write as you go along to make it better. And then here I drew a picture of the problem. Here Jack is really worried. He's frustrated because he can't find his friend Stickbug. And we see Stickbug because we know Stickbug is hiding on the tree. But Jack's having a hard time finding him because usually he uses his ears to help him. But the problem today is that his friend Stickbug camouflaged really well. That was my problem. Next I have so. That's my solution. What the character did or what happened to solve the problem. So I turn the page. All right. So my drawing got a little bit crazy here. I think he scares me about as much as he's scared in this picture. It said, So after looking and listening, Jack was feeling really discouraged. I told my readers how he felt. It's good to explain to your readers so they better understand how the characters are feeling. He was about to give up when Stickbug jumped off the tree and onto Jack's back. Jack was so startled. And then if you notice, Jack is screaming because he has a stick bug on him. And all he knows is that something jumped on him and he is scared. All right, my final piece of this story. All right, so the problem's been solved. Stick bug has been found. Stick bug has been found. What happened then? What resulted after the problem was solved? Jack screamed at the top of his lungs until finally he realized it was his new friend. Then they both laughed until their bellies hurt. Jack was glad to have such a fun friend. And here you see that their screams have turned into laughter. All right, he's covering his eyes. He's laughing so hard. All right, so that was the very end of my story. And after I wrote it, I thought, most of this story was about new friends hanging out with each other and learning about each other. And so I titled my story after writing it, A New Friend. And just like we find the authors and illustrators on the front covers of our books that we read, we can put ourselves as the author and illustrator of this book because this is one that we've created. And then you can draw a nice picture on the front. All right, so that's how I use Somebody Wanted But So Then to create a story. But just like any good story, as you write, don't just restrict it to the somebody was Jack. That's not very interesting. You want to write your sentences in creative ways and give more juicy details, more fun information to your readers as you write your story so that they can really enjoy the story that you're working hard on and that you want to share with people. All right, guys, go forth and write good stories.